If you clicked on this video, I can only assume that you are a singing enthusiast who is looking to further develop your technique and develop as an artist. And that means that we are in luck because I am a singing teacher who is very interested in helping you do that. In this video, we are going to talk about 3 things that you can do today to improve your singing. And this is not a scam, this is not like clickbaity. These are 3 things that you can actually do and learn right now today to make your singing better right now. We're going to talk about the most common mistakes that I see in my beginning voice students and also how to fix them. This also includes how to pick repertoire for yourself, which is a big question that I get asked, and that's going to be at the end of the video, so make sure to stay until then. Ciao y'all, welcome to Making a Musician. It's me, your host, Helen. I'm an opera singer who is trained in several styles of music, and I have over 10 years of private lesson instruction experience. I love helping people along their musical journey. Let's get into it so you can get started. So the number 1 thing that we can fix is breath. Alright, if you don't know how to breathe, you're about to. So the basic function of singing is the relationship between the breath and the vocal folds. In the beginning, you're not going to have a lot of control over your vocal folds and how they're coming together and vibrating. This is more of an intermediate and advanced concept. However, you do have a lot of control over your breath. That's a little bit easier to get working on. So let's talk about that right now. We're going to talk about 3 strategies that you can use and exercises to improve your breath. This is going to help you breathe correctly. This is going to help with your stamina and also your ability to phrase lines. So the first exercise we are going to focus on inhaling and supporting your breath using the larger muscles in your lower body. So breath support does not actually come from like up here where we kind of think of our lungs as coming from. Really, we're using the lower body muscles. This exercise is super simple. You need 2 things, and that is a chair and a pair of lungs. So get those and we will be right back. Step 1 is that we want to sit in this chair with really good posture. If you don't know what that looks like and you'd like a video on posture, feel free to let me know. I'd be more than happy to make one. But for now, just kind of know that we want to have like a nice like regal posture, and if you're feeling unsure, just copy me. So we want to be seated in the chair so that our back is very lightly touching the back of the chair, but we don't want to be resting against it. We are going to draw in air that fills our back, our lungs, and kind of like the abdomen, and as these areas expand, we want to feel that gently touching the back of the chair. Let's practice taking in a breath. And as I breathe in, these areas all touch the chair. Now, on the exhale, we're gonna hiss our air out. And as we hiss, we're gonna keep in contact with the back of the chair, and we're going to resist the collapse as we breathe out. So let's do 1 round of that together, and then to get more practice, you can pause the video and try a couple more times. All right, so here we go. Breathing in. Very good. So at the end, I'm not completely touching the chair anymore, but I'm still very far from like being collapsed and like hunched over. Okay, so maybe try doing that a couple times on your own right now, or you can do them, of course, at the end of the video. All right, I hope you found that helpful. I'm back. Okay, our next one, we are actually gonna lay on the floor for this, and we're gonna incorporate some of the things that we learned in the first exercise, and we're gonna bring them into this next one. We're gonna start by laying on the floor, and we're gonna take in a breath that starts filling up at the lower abdomen, then we go to the lower back, and finally we fill up in the rib cage area. Your chest should not move during this exercise because it's already in a nice relaxed but lifted position, and so it's not going to go really up or down when we breathe at all. Now, take this slow breath on the ground, and we feel the lower abdomen, the lower back, and the ribs all expand. And then we're gonna practice exhaling a slow, controlled exhale on the ground where we feel that our body is not collapsing. Kind of like how we gently kept pressing into the chair in the last exercise, you can do that with the floor. Once this slow, controlled exhale where we resist the collapse is feeling comfortable, we're gonna switch from just simply breathing out the air to saying the alphabet. We are gonna say the alphabet at a slow, moderate tempo where every letter glides into the next and they're all smooth and connected. You'll notice that in the beginning, it's actually pretty difficult to get through the full alphabet. When I started doing this exercise, I was at more of an intermediate level and I was really surprised surprised how difficult this was. But eventually, as you do this day by day and you do it even one day several times, you'll find that you can get further and further through the alphabet. You'll eventually be able to do it several times over. The next exercise that we're gonna learn is gonna help you with a rapid intake of air. So the last two that we worked on were good for slow, sustained, controlled inhales. But when you're singing, usually you don't have a ton of time to take a breath. So this is gonna help us get in our quick breath and do it efficiently and correctly. This is very simple. We're gonna start by saying ka. So say that with me a couple times. Ka, ka, ka. And the way that we're saying this, we're using the middle of the tongue on the soft palate. So ka, ka, ka. Also, I'd like to add that the cheeks are lifted and the mouth is not overly open. So it's not ka, 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 but just really relaxed and simple. Ka, ka, ka. Say that a couple of times until you're feeling really confident with the tongue position. Now, instead of doing this on an exhale or as like a word, we're going to keep this same position of the mouth, the face, and the tongue, and we're gonna inhale on it. So, we're gonna continue to use the lower body muscles to draw in the air, and we're really gonna feel it in our lower abdominal muscles. Now, to breathe out, we're gonna go shh, shh, shh. So let's try this 3 times. Very good. Okay, so all 3 of these exercises together are gonna help you with different aspects of breathing and breath management, and they're all going to show you immediate benefits in your singing. So now that we have talked about breathing, let's go back and talk about posture. Posture is really important to singing. How we hold the body has a lot to do with how our sound is gonna come out. We're gonna begin by talking about singing in a seated position, so let's get that chair from our first exercise. Singing usually has what I think of as a relaxed but kind of alert position, so let's break that down. We're gonna go from the bottom to the top. So our feet, I know you can't see my feet, but let's imagine, they're flat on the floor, and my knees are bent at a 90-degree angle. Now, sometimes if you're singing in a chair, I like to have one foot slightly behind the other, but this is just kind of a matter of personal preference. And then we want our feet, they don't have to be entirely parallel, but you don't really want to be super pointed in or pointed out. Just a fairly neutral position that feels comfortable for you. Here we are in the chair. Singing usually has what I think of as a relaxed but pretty alert position or posture. So let's talk about what that looks like. The hips are in a neutral position. We don't want to be like rounded back like this or overly engaged and to the front like this. So just nice and straight. Torso is relaxed but ready to work, and we want our spine straight for the most part. I mean, we do want to preserve the natural curvature of the spine, so don't sit in an overly tense straight position, because that is probably also not going to lead to you doing your best singing. If you're too straight and too rigid, you're gonna cut yourself off from your body, and pretty much no one sings well like that. So now we're gonna take our shoulders. I like to bring them up, back, and down so that they can find their correct position. Now we don't want them overly tense and back, because that brings the chest too far forward, and again, nobody's gonna sing well like that. So we just want our shoulder blades to be resting flat on our back in their natural, comfortable position. So once we have found that position, we want our arms to just hang by our sides. And then in order to get the neck in the right position, we just want to put the ear right directly over the shoulder, and that's going to make sure everything is right where it should be. For the top of the head, a lot of people say to pretend like you're a marionette and you have a string that comes out of your head and pulls you up like this. And this is going to be really great posture for singing seated in a chair. So the final thing that we're going to address to make your singing better today is your mouth shape and kind of facial position. So let's start with the mouth closed and address the position of the face that we want. My teacher used to always say that she wanted me to feel like I had an inner smile. So what does that mean? This is basically a position where the eyebrows are alert and the cheeks are up and the soft palate is raised. If you do not yet know how to raise your soft palate, I can make a video about that if you think that would be helpful. But basically for now, pretend that you're about to yawn, and congratulations, a raised soft palate. Now you have one. We have this inner smile position, and now we're going to gently release the jaw from its hinge, which is this spot right in front of the ears. So we're gonna let it gently down. I know that's a very underwhelming amount of movement, but actually a lot of the time when I see beginning singers, they're opening their mouths way too wide. They are opening so much, and over opening is really not great for your singing. So we want a relaxed and neutral jaw. So we want the mouth to be open from a position that is not too wide, like I said. So we can kind of find out where this is for each of us by just relaxing all of our facial muscles and then seeing where the jaw sits naturally. So like this. And for me, we can see that it's maybe about a half to an inch worth of opening just naturally when I'm relaxed. Now, while you're articulating words, you'll open more and less in this, but this is kind of your neutral starting position. Okay, to touch quickly on the tongue, we just kind of want it to sit in our mouth and hang out and do its job, and we don't really want to worry about it too much. This is a little bit more of an intermediate concept, but we'll get like a quick little rundown of the tongue and how we want it in a very basic sense. So the tongue rests against the back teeth. I actually have a permanent retainer on my lower set of teeth. My tongue rests right against that with the tip of the tongue touching the back of the retainer. The back of the tongue is flat and wide, relaxed against the molars, and then it will arch up on certain vowels, for example, E. So when I make an E vowel, the tip of my tongue is at that back of my teeth and the top of my tongue is wide but arched. Leave the tongue alone. Don't worry about it. Don't make it do anything funky. It's just kind of, the tongue's only job is to articulate text. So don't give it any extra jobs. It doesn't need to be working overtime. It doesn't need to be doing extra weird things. Just kind of leave it alone and try not to think about it too much in the beginning. As we get into more advanced and intermediate concepts, we can talk about the tongue more later. Okay, and then a bonus tip is to understand the emotion of your piece and bring that out in every moment of the song. The number of times that I either have students or see performances where the singer just really doesn't understand or is not taking into account what they're singing about is insane. A few weeks ago, I was in a masterclass with a clinician and he said something really profound, and I thought I would share it with all of you. And what he said was, music is not the vehicle for emotion, it is the emotion. And I know that that sounds cool, but let's talk about like what it actually means. So basically, it means that your melodic line is not just there because it's a song and that means that we have to have a tune. It means that the melody of your music is the emotion. Everything musically that's going on reflects your emotional landscape at any moment in that song. Everything means something, so really listen to what's going on in your song and decide what that means for you. For example, maybe the piano has a big high note at some point when you are just like coming to a big realization. Those things are related. Maybe the bass line is meant to mimic the heartbeat of how you're feeling in that moment. Maybe the music speeds up because you're feeling really excited about something, or maybe it speeds up because you're scared. Think about all of these things and take them into account. This is going to make your performance or your music or anything you're doing so much more emotionally compelling. I cannot even tell you how much this is going to make a difference. Now, to discover what the piece you're working on really means, I would do an analysis of the text. So I would actually print out my text and then annotate it, and you can find different nuances in the words. You can be like, wow, it's really interesting that they used that word here. Oh, this is meant to rhyme here. So you can really understand how the text is functioning to serve the music and get the idea across. And then to work on articulating our text, we're going to practice speaking through it. So I get really frustrated when I go to a performance and it's a great performance, but it's in a language that I speak and I have no idea what's being sung. So if I can't understand the text, that means we probably need to do a little bit more work on making our articulation clearer. So to do this, we're gonna practice speaking through our whole text at a very just normal speaking pace. And you wanna talk through the words enough times that they almost feel like they're your own and that they're coming from you. Once you've gotten to this stage, we're gonna do something kind of fun. So we're gonna talk through only the vowels, because when we sing mostly on the vowel of the word. That's kind of where we want to put the voice and carry the sound. So we wanna focus on the vowels. So you're gonna speak through your text only on the vowels, and you're gonna make sure they each glide one into the next one. We have really smooth transitions between them and they all connect. This is what we call legato, which means things are smooth and connected. So once you've practiced only doing everything on the vowel, add the text back in and then see if you can't get more of the emotion of the text through. As promised, let's talk about some of the most common mistakes I see in singers that are kind of on the beginning of their journey and how to fix them really quickly and really easily. So one of the number one mistakes I see is that they stick their chin forward when they're singing. I don't know if it's maybe an emotional thing, like they're trying to get closer to you, to really bring you into the story, but that is something I say a lot. And it is an issue because when you bring your chin forward, you also bring your neck and throat forward, and inside of your throat is your larynx, which has your vocal folds. And so if your neck is in a weird position, your larynx is not suspended properly in your throat, and your folds cannot vibrate in the way that they are meant to. You're not going to be able to sing your best. So in order to fix this, we have a really simple solution. You're just going to find a wall, any wall, and gently have the back of your head touching the wall while you sing. And this will remind you to keep your head in that nice straight neutral position where your chin is just gently tucked and sitting very naturally and nothing is going out or overly in. And the great thing about this is you can go to the wall, remind yourself of the position, maybe sing a couple lines against the wall, and then take a step out. And if you find yourself having issues again where you're sticking your chin out, or you're not quite sure what position your head is meant to be in, you can always go back, just take a step and remind yourself of the wall really easily. This is a great way to build muscle memory, and this is really going to help you get everything in the right position. Next one is eyes up. A mistake that I see in a lot of singers is that their gaze is pointed at the floor, and this is probably because that's kind of how they're practicing. This is not great for a couple reasons. So if your eyes are on the floor, this is a really slippery slope to your chin and head position getting kind of funny, and like I said, that affects where our larynx is sitting, which affects our vocal folds' ability to phonate properly. So we don't want that. That's not great. We've worked very hard on our posture at this point throughout the video, so we want to make sure the eyes are up so that we don't drag everything down. Next issue with this, for me personally, is that dramatically nothing ever happens on the floor. So we want to be representing what's going on emotionally in the piece in our face and in our eyes. And we cannot really do that if they're pointed at the ground. I mean, we can do it, but it's only for us and no one else is able to see what's going on in our world. So practicing with your eyes pointed at the floor is a bad habit. And if you think that, okay, well, I do it when I practice, but it's not that big of a deal because obviously I won't do that when I'm performing. I too used to feel that way, and let me tell you, it never worked out for me. So muscle memory is really strong, and if you practice with your eyes on the ground, you will probably also sing in the performance with your eyes on the ground, and then if you're like me, you're going to get feedback that's like, wow, your acting just wasn't very interesting, or why did you have your eyes closed throughout the whole piece? And fun fact, my eyes weren't closed, but I was going like this, and then my lids would come down a little bit and you couldn't see my eyes anymore, and it was like a whole issue, and I had to spend a lot of time fixing it. And it wouldn't have been an issue if I just had practiced with my eyes up. The other issue is that then you're used to your eyes being a certain way when you're practicing, and then all of a sudden you look up and everything feels different, your head's in a slightly different position, and you have all this visual information that you're taking in all of a sudden. It's really strange and overwhelming, and it's not at all what you've been practicing, and that's really gonna throw you off in performance. So make sure to keep your eyes up when you're practicing. There is a super simple fix for this that I used that trained me to keep my eyes up, in addition to people, you know, reminding me constantly about it. But actually I just put a sticky note on the wall, and then when I was practicing I knew that I needed to be focusing in on that sticky note, and then I stopped having an issue with this. Final really common issue that I see is that people are practicing in ways that do not mimic kind of the results that they want. For example, I had a student who was really frustrated because she didn't feel that she was making progress, but she said she was practicing a lot. So I asked her about the practice. I'm like, okay, well, you're practicing a lot. What does that look like for you? And she informed me that she was practicing in the car while she was driving, and she was practicing on her commute, which is very long. So in her head, she's thinking, wow, I'm practicing like 2 hours a day. Why am I not making progress? Okay, well, I think the issue is very clear. So, you know, the seat in the car does not put you in an ideal position. There's, you know, this obvious position that's like not what we want to do while we're singing. And then of course, hopefully if you're driving, you're not focusing more on your singing than you are on your driving. Practicing in the car does not mimic the way that we want to be singing in real life. Set up a practice environment that mimics what you want to be doing when you're performing. So if you want to sing at open mics and you're going to be seated with your guitar, practice singing on a stool so that you can get used to the position. If you are practicing for an audition and you're going to be singing for a panel, practice singing and only facing in one position so you're not walking around, meandering about your apartment. Practice standing still, facing one position and emoting, and that way you can mimic what it's like having an audition for a panel where you have to face a set of judges. Practice exactly what you want your ideal result to look like. Now you don't have to do this 100% of the time, but we want to shoot for at least half, at a bare minimum half, but ideally more. Okay, as promised, let's talk about how to pick repertoire for your specific voice. I recommend starting off by finding a singer that has a similar voice to you. And I mean similar in sense of color, style, size, and range, things like that. Look at some of the music that they sing and find things that are about at the level that you're at as well. Things that feel achievable, but maybe there are some challenges for you in the song. That is a great place to start. My next thing for picking repertoire is don't sing music that you don't really love. I had a teacher who was super adamant about that, and that has been such a wonderful thing for me. She always told me that there is too much amazing music in the world for you to sing things that you don't like, unless you're getting paid, in which case, go get them. There we go. But yeah, don't sing music if you just kind of feel lukewarm about it. I'm always very confused by this. There's so much exciting music, and I often have students walk into a lesson and they're like, I want to work on this, and I'm like, oh yeah, you really love this piece, and they're like, pick things that you love! Before I share my final tip for picking music, I just want to thank you so much for watching this far in the video. If you found this helpful or interesting, I would really appreciate it if you chose to like this video or subscribe to my channel. This helps me know that this is the good kind of content for me to make and that you find this interesting and helpful, and that way I can continue doing more of this going forward. Alright, the final tip. These are words of wisdom that were spoken to me by a very close mentor, and she told me, never show them what you can't do. So this is a hard lesson that I had to learn, and I think that every singer has to learn this at some point, and that is to pick music that is well within your ability level. So when you're picking repertoire, you want to pick things that are at a level that you can successfully do them. And let's just ignore the fact that if you're doing music that's way outside of the realm of what you can do healthily, you could really have an injury and you could really mess up your voice and do a lot of damage. Let's just like ignore that. Here's the issue. Muscle memory is a very real thing. And someday you are going to get to a point where technically you're able to sing that piece that you want to do, that you've been dreaming of. And if you've been working on it before you're at a level where you can actually sing it healthily and with good technique, you're gonna have a lot of really, really bad muscle memory that you need to untrain, which is super difficult to do. It's incredibly time consuming because basically one of the main ways that you do that is by doing it more times with good technique than you did it with bad technique, and if you've been doing it a lot, that is a lot of hours that you're gonna need to put into that. It's just very difficult and time consuming to untrain these habits, so it's best if you just don't create them in the first place. Hold off on things that you really want to do until you're sure that you're in a place where you can do them really, really well. Alright, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will absolutely get back to you. I am more than happy to answer any questions you might have about anything in this video, and rest assured there will be an intermediate and advanced version of this video coming soon, so watch out for that. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Bye!